can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And how are we doing out there all across this great land of ours and around the world, coast to coast and globally syndicated? The Conservative Syndicate come to you live right now out here, broadcast, well, like I said, coast to coast, because I'm glad to report our co-host and my partner in crime, Joe Hakos, is back, has risen from the sick bed and is back at the microphone, and I can tell you he's on fire. He's on fire. So, how you doing, Joe?
It just might be a little irritable is all, but I'm okay.
Well, if our pre-game talk is any indication, you seem like you're back in good spirits, at least high energy.
I'm going to try to calm down so I can last throughout this.
It's funny because it's usually Joe telling me to calm down. So, okay, but there's a lot going on out there to be kind of perturbed at, if I can use that word at this point in the game. Hey, but we are glad to have you with us tonight. This is our last broadcast for the week, Friday. I'll tell you, this is going to the 5-day a week. We've been doing this now for 3 or 4 months,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it took a little getting used to, but I think it has paid off in the long run because we're not losing thoughts midstream. I think that was one of the biggest problems when we were only 3 days a week. Was that we'd get right, it's like we'd be hitting a peak, and then we had to, we can't do anything again until next week, So, and then everything changes in 4 days, So it's good to be able to do it this way, and we're glad that you took the time. I wanted to just remind everybody again, we now have a chat room. So if you go to theconservativesyndicate.net and just click on the chat room navigation bar, it will take you to our chat room, and you can sign in there and be part of the program. We've had some good activity there this week, and, that's what it's there for. I do want to just stipulate, though, that if we don't respond to what you're saying right away, don't think that we're not listening. Because of the way the show is run, and Joe and I don't have people in the background doing all the technical stuff for us, I check the chat room during the breaks. And I know Joe looks at it every now and then while we're talking too. So we'll get to it. And I usually respond on air to whatever it is that's being posted there. I'll seldom actually post anything myself unless I have a question for somebody or something like that. So the chat room's available. Just go to theconservativesyndicate.net and click on chat room, and you'll be taken there, and you'll be able to hear the show and comment, ask questions, whatever you want to do there. Okay. All right, we have been trying all week, and I'm not so sure that I've succeeded at it, but I know that I've been giving it the best effort I can to take what's going on out there in the political arena right now and trying to put it in a big picture perspective. And the reason I feel so compelled to do that at this point in the game is because there are so many things out there that are just... the way this whole administration has affected everything in this country, and one of the things it's been really good at doing is keeping the narrative, control the narrative, and also in doing that, keeping everybody in disarray, confusion, division. It's just one thing this president has accomplished, and that is that Alinsky style of doing business, and that is to just get everybody so pissed off at each other that nothing gets done. And in the meantime, the operatives are in the background just doing whatever they feel like doing. And the Republican Party has fallen in line for fear of being sucked up and labeled in this massive pissing contest as one side or the other, and they don't want to be on either side. And so it's created this whole atmosphere that on both sides of the aisle, I see a lot of just emotional reaction rather than reasonable responses. And so my thought process has been to try to make some sense of this and put it in a type of big picture. And understand that a lot of the major things that are being talked about and discussed and argued about aren't really major things. That's the way the left has controlled the narrative. They get us majoring in the minors, and then they're out there just doing their thing. And by the time you figured it out, well, the attitude of this president is, well, what are you going to do to stop me? I just signed an executive order. I was reading the other day that in this month alone, Obama plans on issuing about 4,000 new regulations throughout the government in different areas on different things. And there's no way in the world we're going to be able to even, we probably won't even know what 3,999 of those regulations are. There will be one that comes up, and right now it's the gun control thing. And that will drive the narrative while everything else is being conducted behind the smoke screen. Don't pay any attention to that man behind the curtain kind of thing. And so I've been trying all week to bring this about face and put everything in a big picture perspective. And in doing that, what I've had to do is spend some time talking about things I'd really rather not talk about because they're really not relevant in the big picture. But they are part of the big picture in the fact that they produce the illusion under which the cover under which the left operates and accomplishes their agenda. And as I've been saying all week long, the way that the media portrays, and even people on the right, one of the things I just am fascinated by is how people on the right, especially intellectual people, reasonable people, pundits, people that have a much larger audience than we do and get paid much more money than we do for what we do.
Undeservedly so.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't get their money. I mean, I'm a capitalist. I would take the money too. But the point being is that they're even falling into the trap of grabbing onto the narrative and letting the narrative dictate where they go and how they talk, what they talk about, what the topics are. The other night I mentioned this. I think it was yesterday. The interview between Megyn Kelly and Eamon Munday, the guy up there at the Oregon standoff going off there, and she had him on the show. And she was just so hell-bent on making this guy somehow admit that what he was doing was just useless. The Hammonds had already surrendered. They're already serving their sentence. Had already gone through the court system. It was the rule of law, all these other things. And she was into the narrative. And Bundy just came back and said, well, you're missing the point. The point is what? The government was the judge, jury, and executioner in this case. That is the point. See, that's what I mean. They get wrapped up in the little things that don't matter and forget the big picture. They don't see it, or they don't want to see it.
They don't want to see it.
And so we're trying to bring it about to that. And so we're going to talk about today is a couple of things. One of the things I want to talk about is Barack Obama's town hall, CNN town hall. That's what they called it. It was more like I don't know what you want to call it, but that's what they call it.
Well, let's call it what it is. It was collusion between CNN and the White House. They both got together. Yeah. They were going to do this.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that.
It's all made up.
We're going to talk about that because I want to take that dialogue that took place yesterday, and I want to show you how it's being used, and then we're going to try to take it and put it back into the big picture in terms of how this type of stuff is going to drive the election process this year. That's really what it's about. Controlling the narrative. And I've been saying that all week long. It's about controlling the narrative. We're going to talk about how that happens and how that transpires. And the big problem right now with everybody is that right now, really, Trump is the one controlling the narrative, and the left is trying to get it back. So that's what we're going to talk about. Well, we got to go to a break here first. When we come back, we'll get into our conversations for today. We will be joining Bob Cardozo from Robert Cardozo Live at the bottom of the hour, doing our weekly segment with him. But Joe and I will be carrying the bulk of the load today. So we'll be back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate.
Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
To the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dreyer Report. And let's kind of get into the mix for today. As I've been saying all week, I'm trying to take all the numerous distractions that are out there, and that keeps surfacing. It seems like every time what the signal is when it looks like there's going to be some type of conclusive decision made on a particular issue or issues, and then something happens in the public arena. It's not always something generated from the political side, but something happens, and the next thing you know, there's a whole narrative being driven towards that particular action or event. And everything that we were just talking about, everything that we're just beginning to understand kind of goes the wayside, gets put on the back burner, and just kind of falls off into the terminal hold basket that seems to be getting bigger and bigger by the day in the political arena. And I've just had this thing gnawing at me for the last couple of weeks that we need to start taking the situations that we're dealing with, the things that are out there. We need to put them where they belong within the big picture rather than just narrowing it down to a specific event. And in doing so, bring back some logic and reason in our addressing these issues and quit falling into this trap of just reacting, and reacting usually in anger or frustration or something like that. And really just kind of sound like a bunch of whiny kids. We sound like whiny liberals to some degree. And I'm trying to get that back there because it's one of the things that has inspired me about the Ted Cruz campaign is that he just refuses to go where other people are going so handily. That even when Trump comes after him, he just plays it off. He's just like, okay, he understands this is the game. And that's what we as conservatives need to get back to understanding. This is the game. This is the way it's been played. You control the narrative. You control the process. It doesn't necessarily mean who's the best qualified or anything else. It's who's controlling the narrative. And the left has been controlling it for quite a while now, and really controlling it over the last 7.5 years. And Donald Trump has thrown a wrench in the works. The Republicans are like deer in the headlights. They don't know what to do. And the leftists understand, Trump is the center, he's the big show right now. We got to get that back. And so they're trying to use some of the things he does to turn the narrative back, but they're also concocting their own stuff. So I'm just trying to put it together that way. And one of the things I've been harping on all week is about the necessity of preserving Obama's legacy. And it's not there's two sides to this thing, and I pointed this out a couple of times this week. There's two sides of the perseverance or the preserving of Obama's legacy. One is because that's what Obama wants. That's everything that he is. I mean, his whole narcissistic personality and his low self-esteem that he tries to compensate for through his narcissism is at stake. This guy, he's banked his whole existence on what he perceives himself to be. And so it's imperative to him. And that's why when you see polls out there saying the majority of Americans are against what he wants, he doesn't care what the majority of Americans want. He doesn't care what the Constitution says he can and cannot do. He certainly doesn't care what Congress has to say about anything. This is all about him. The other side of it is how are they going to use Obama's favorability or his likability? I use the likability factor. How are they going to use that to help prepare them for the 2016 general election? Because if it is Hillary, which I'm not sold on the idea it's going to be, then she has a very low likability factor. So there has to be some way of padding that, and with all the other things that are going on with her. And of course, if this email thing does finally at some point in time blow up and take her out of the race, they're going to have to pull somebody from the rank and file somewhere, and they're going to have to use that Obama likability factor to get that person into the mainstream in a very short period of time.
Really, John? Really? They're not going to go with O'Malley or Bernie?
I'm sorry?
They're not going to go with O'Malley or Bernie?
Oh, no.
They're going to have to deep dig into the well of abyss, the cesspool of Democrats to pull out a candidate?
No, I don't think the Democrats want Bernie any more than the Republicans want Trump.
I find it hard to believe, John.
It's just because both of these candidates, whether you're talking about Trump or Sanders, they expose in different ways, but they expose what the party that they represent really is about. Trump is really about Whether I'm not going to get into the debate as to whether he's really a conservative or not. That's not the point. Trump is driving the narrative, and he's doing it in our favor. So I don't care right now who he is. But Bernie completely exposes the Democrats for what they are. And that, the only people, if Bernie is in nomination, the only people who are going to show up to vote for the most part are going to be the college kids, and those are the ones that aren't all hungover from partying the night before. So I think if Bernie ends up with a nomination, they're going to lose even worse than I think they're going to lose if Hillary is a nomination. So, and I'll be honest with you, Joe, I know you might want to comment on this. I'm still not pulling out my assessment that perhaps somebody like a Julio Chavez or Castro could be thrown in the middle of this thing. They're already floating him. They are already mentioning.
Find somebody.
Well, they are already mentioning him as the VP guy.
Well, I mean, they can just pull out Ted Kennedy's dead bones and run him.
I'm sorry?
They can just pull out Ted Kennedy's dead bones and run him.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, all he ever did was kill a woman, cheat.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
For crying out loud, if you can't be the Democrat this time for what they have done, just look around.
Yeah, I agree.
Look around, and for what they have done, if you can't be the Democrat, you don't deserve the winner of the election.
No.
Ever.
No, I agree, and that's the whole that's really kind of the whole point. And because as much as I know that sometimes I sound like I'm just bad mouthing the badmouth, but the point is that the Republicans have had they've won some elections and they've taken majorities, and they're still not doing anything with it.
Yes.
And we're getting to this place where at what point in time do they? How much longer can they continue to win by default? That because sooner or later, people. I mean, we already know that. You look at the just how people look at Congress overall. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or anything else in between, people don't like Congress. Okay. Now we understand. We've talked about the insanity factor. If you don't like it, clean it out. But everybody keeps voting for their own guy or gal, and so we keep getting the same thing. But there is at least an understanding or acknowledgement that Washington is pretty much screwed up. It's its own brand of stupid, and it's on both sides across the board.
And it does not represent anything of the American people anymore.
No.
The thing about Washington, D.C. is representing any Americans anymore.
No, and as we pointed out at the beginning of this week, the hidden poll, we did a whole segment on this hidden poll that came out of NBC, Wall Street Journal, that has not been publicized at all, but it came out and mentioned or noted the fact that this is NBC now, NBC and Wall Street Journal, both liberal rags for most part, and 73% of the people in America believe that Barack Obama has taken the country in the wrong direction. Now that number is not being floated out there. What's being floated out there is his 60% likability.
Yeah.
We're not hearing about his 43% job disapproval or his job approval rating of only 43%, which, by the way...
I would just wished earlier in life he had been hunting wild boar in Hawaii with Dick Cheney.
Yeah. So it's like...
That would have been an awesome sight. Maybe he wouldn't have had to go through a lot of this crap.
Yeah.
But, that's a fantasy land, too.
Yeah. So we all this going on the way that it's going on, the way it's coming down and everything else. And one of the things that I'm noticing, like I was just looking here, just at the break, I'm trying to get in the habit of looking at things at break and see if something's, unfolding as we're talking here. The idea now that they found in an email here now on Hillary, another email.
Yes, I know.
In which she asked specifically to have classified information that was going to be faxed on a secure fax machine to be unsecured and sent to her through an email.
Yeah.
Now, this stuff, like I said, I don't know how much more it's going to take before somebody in a position of authority in the FBI or the Justice Department, more likely the FBI. But the point being is that at some point in time, somebody's got to say, okay, enough is enough. This woman has broken the law in 19 different ways.
in 19 different ways on the same piece of ground. Yeah. So it's kind of like, gee, really, what more can you do for this woman? But indict her.
So if that happens, then, the Democrats are going to have to go into scramble mode. And, who knows what's going to happen at that point. So that's why I'm saying I believe that what it's going to end up doing is it's going to end up, even if Hillary survives it all, I think in the court of public opinion, she's pretty much been, done away with. I think that Democrats will quit showing up. They won't show up to vote. And the only people that will show up to vote are the ones that love Bernie.
I was going to say public opinion. Well, John, I keep watching television, and I keep seeing people behind her applauding her every statement, going, yeah, she's there for me. Yeah, John, there's still people out there. I don't know if they rent a people, rent a crowd. I don't know. I think these people actually are true believers, and they think Hillary Clinton's going to be all that. Whether or not it's because, she's a woman. Okay, great. She's Bill's wife. Okay, great for that. I don't know. She's Secretary of State.
Well, in fact, I'll give you a really simple example here. Something I heard last night, and I tell you guys, I mention this all the time in the show, but I watched the Filipino channel, Filipino TV cable network, and they have on their news segment is called Patrol. They call it the Patrol, and they have Patrol, which is all Filipino news. And so you watch what's going on with the Filipino elections. That's fascinating what's going on in their election process right now. But then they have this other show called Balitang America, and what it is American news for Filipinos, and it's based out of San Francisco, and it's about as leftist as you're going to get. It's a Filipino version of MSNBC, and what they do is yesterday they kept talking about the election of this election process. And they went through this big thing about Barack Obama on immigration. That's why the Filipinos love Barack Obama, because I think he's going to give them that magic carpet ride that's going to allow them to send their relatives over here and be able to send money back and everything else. The difference being, of course, in the Asian culture is that when people come over here, they actually work. Not come over here and rob benefits or anything else and send and then benefit their people back home through their taking of our benefits here. I know very few Asians, whether it be Filipino or any other aspect of the Asian culture, that come out to America for the purpose of soaking our welfare system. So there is a big difference there. But the point being is they really think that Barack Obama is the answer to the immigration problem. Of course, not even addressing the other side of the coin, which is that their president, Noynoy Aquino, Benito Aquino Jr., he wants to start banning people leaving the country to go overseas and work, because everybody's leaving the Philippines because there's no work. So there's this thing going on there. But that's just kind of an illustration of how this narrative drives everything, this narrative that I keep talking about, because it's so important that we really start to understand that is the strategy. And again, it's void and null, really, of all other aspects of a campaign: qualifications, ideology, theology, whatever you believe, whatever process or policies you want to implement. All these things are really kind of irrelevant, because politics is being controlled and run by the narrative. And the narrative is to get a group of people, as Joe had mentioned, the true believers, to move in the direction in mass that you want them to go. That's the whole process. That's the whole intent and desire of what they do on the left. Community organizing is all about moving the sheep from one pasture to another. And in doing so, hoping to maintain balance and power. So that's how this whole thing is fitting together. And now we're talking about this thing with Hillary. Should this thing continue to climb the stairs that it's climbing? Should it ever reach, I'm not saying it will, but should it ever reach that place where it actually ends up blowing up and nobody can deny it anymore, that we have a person who's going to be the commander-in-chief, who is probably the top, makes Ed Snowden look like a rookie when it comes to violation of security rules. The dynamic is going to change very quickly. And so they're going to have to fall back on something. And that thing they're going to fall back on is Obama's popularity in spite of his failures. And I was just talking here about all that. So we got to go to a break right now. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion here. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dryer Report. And it's that time of the day. It's Friday here. We're going to be chiming in to our good friend, Bob Cardoso, over at Robert Cardoso Live. I think he is a guest on our segment, on our show today. We were on his show on Monday, and he comes on our show on Friday. So we're going to see if we can chime into him right now. If I can get his thing to open up here. It's not allowing me to pick him up. So I don't know what we're going to do here. Okay, well, let's go. Add to call. Let's see if we can pick him up right now. And
holy cow.
Okay, come on, pick up Bob. I got Bob Brander. Somehow I got him on here too. Oh man, what did I do? Did I just hang everybody? I just hung everybody up. Damn it. Okay. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, you still there, Joe?
I'm here now.
Okay, all right. I
was gone for a second, but now I'm back.
Yeah, I didn't get anything from Bob here. Listen, we had a glitch on him on Monday.
How about I leave you allow you to call him, and then I'll call you.
Well, he called in and here on Monday. We're supposed to call into him on today. I don't know. Well, see, he's not even showing up on my list right now. I'm pretty sure that there he is. Robert Cardozo. Let's put him in there, add to the call. Let's see if he picks up this time. There's some glitch in his system on Monday, and we got through the first segment. We went into the second segment, couldn't do it. It just wouldn't open up. I don't know if it's going to open up now. Anyway, okay, well, let's just move on. Let's wait for him to call us in. Maybe he'll have the gumption to call us. It's just not working.
Maybe I could try.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's get back to there he is.
It's me trying him. What the heck?
Well, he's not opening up. Let's see.
Well, Robert's been pretty guarded like that. He usually doesn't open up. I'm surprised he's not opening up.
We'll just have to go around it. We'll just have to work around it. Let's get back to
okay.
Yeah. It's just not happening here. Okay. He's going to have to fix his system. And he screwed something up on it Monday, and I guess he didn't get it fixed. All right, let's get back to our what we're talking about here. We've been talking about this idea or this whole thing about what I've been referring to off and on here all week long is the preservation of the Obama legacy. Now, I want to open it up with this. We're going to talk first about the fact that what a distraction what's going on right now is, and that's been the premise of everything that he does. It's always a distraction going on. Today we found out, with all the stuff going on with gun control and Obama out there selling the snake oil and everything else, I just happened to catch it this morning. The report that there were 2 potential terrorists arrested up in Sacramento today. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is the reason I'm bringing this up. There's 2 reasons I'm bringing this up. One, I want to once again reiterate to you, our listeners, how this thing plays out. We spent, I don't know how many hours we spent a couple of weeks ago talking about the vetting process of the great vetting process of Barack Obama.
Mighty vetting process going to be used in our refugee relocation program.
Right, and how well it was orchestrated, and they had it all under control and everything else. And we debunked that. We spent a couple of days on it, actually. We actually brought up and explained to you, our listeners, how they go about vetting. And one of the things we talked about was this questionnaire that asked people if they're terrorists, if they've ever engaged in terrorism, do they know of any terrorist organizations? Do they plan to join any terrorist organization? Do they plan to do any acts of terrorism? And we joked about it, and we laughed about it, and I explained to you, our audience, the reason why the government does this is so that if you do something wrong, they can come back and nail you for falsifying an application. And it has nothing to do with proving whether you're a viable risk or not. It has to them being able to document after the fact. Okay, so we're going to ask you if you're a bad guy, and then if you turn out to be a bad guy, we'll be able to come back to you and say, hey, you lied to us. You said you were a good guy. And that would be the premise on which anything else was being accomplished. Or, that would be the process then that would begin with whatever it is they decide they're going to do about it. Okay? Now, the whole thing here is this. Here we go. And I mentioned this. Now, Sacramento resident Oz Muhammad Yunus Al-Jabib, what a name. And he was arrested on charges of making a false statement involving international terrorism. Okay? He allegedly had traveled overseas to fight alongside terrorist organizations and lied to the U.S. authorities about his activities. Now, this is exactly what we've been saying. This is how the vetting process works. We ask you if you're a bad guy. And then if we catch you doing bad things, we'll come back and say, well, you lied to us and said you were a good guy. That is the extent of what's going on in our vetting process. It's not, let's check this guy out and see if anything that he's done. They now know that he was a Palestinian born in Iraq. He traveled to Syria to fight with the terrorist organizations in the area. They know it now, after the fact.
So, John, what you're telling us is we are dependent on the jihadi honor system.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty awesome. I didn't know they had an honor system.
Yeah, and so here's the point. Because he was classified as a refugee, Okay, see that's the key
the
thing.
refugee honor system.
Yeah, the refugee honor system. We want to know if you're really coming over here because you're a refugee or if you're coming over. And so we're going to ask you, are you a terrorist or a refugee? Oh, I'm a refugee. Well, obviously you're not a refugee because we now know that you participated in terrorist activities and you lied to us. Okay?
So there, you bad refugee, you.
So this kind of leads to a bigger thing because when we start talking about how the liberals mask this kind of stuff, this is what's going on right now. Everybody knows the rhetoric of gun control is being focused on, I'm going to use the word domestic terrorists, meaning law-abiding citizens that want to own guns. Okay, that's the liberal definition of a domestic terrorist, a law-abiding citizen that wants to own guns or has the right to own a gun.
Oh, you mean a natural free-born American?
Right, an American, okay? The Americans are the domestic terrorists. And
free-born American.
And this guy, because he's a Muslim, now the big concern is what? Hatred being shown towards Muslims. That's the government's concern. So now what we have is we have legislation that's being offered to protect Muslim groups. Another group needs to protect it. Here's my point on this.
What?
Muslim groups need protection. They actually
from who?
They actually introduced a bill. I'm scanning down my notes here because I kind of jumped ahead of myself here, but that's where the conversation took me. They passed legislation. Oh, here it is. No, that's not where it is. Okay. I'm scanning down through all my notes here. I shouldn't have put the transcript to the debate yesterday up there in the top. I should have put it down towards the bottom. So as I'm scanning through this thing, I want to get to this article here. But there's been legislation actually put through or put out there right now, submitted into the House, I believe it is, generated in the House. And they're calling it's like the government's version of, okay, here we go. Here's an article from Eagle Rising, okay? Let's see, what's the name of the House Resolution 569? It's a bill that seeks to criminalize violence, bigotry, and hateful rhetoric towards Muslims in the United States. So the response to a Muslim coming over here, lying on their application, claiming to be a refugee, actually having ties, been trained and participated with terrorist groups, is we need now legislation that would protect such a Muslim from being subjected to violence, bigotry, or hateful rhetoric. See, what's happened now is the label, I love the title of this thing, Liberals Trying to Make Muslims the New Homosexuals, How to Create a Protected Class. The whole article is how the government, how the leftists try to go out there and they identify a demographic or a voting bloc or somebody that feeds into their political narrative, and they now have to protect these people. It's kind of like with the homosexuals. We have to have laws that protect the homosexuals. We have to have laws that protect the children. Everything is about protecting people. Everybody forgetting about the main reason for the Constitution was to protect us from government. And now it's all being turned around because of the narrative. The narrative now says it's the government responsibility to protect chosen demographics and blocks of citizens. We need to protect the blacks against the whites. We need to protect the poor against the rich. We need to protect the homosexuals against the heterosexuals. We need to protect the Muslims against everybody. And that's what the narrative feeds. That's how it works. So we got to go to break when we come back. I want to get your comment on that, Joe. I know you've been sitting there quietly waiting. I want to get your comment on that. And so stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And we're back. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dryer Report. And I left the commentary hanging out there just before the break about the fact that the narrative that we keep talking about is now being directed towards Muslims becoming a protected class because of the terrorism that's going on. It's being conducted. And, of course, we can't allow anybody to be unprotected in the United States unless you're white evangelical Christian. You know, anyway, we're the ones now that are being targeted and, what do you want to call it, pointed out, targeted, set aside, ostracized, labeled, everything else in defense of, I guess, all these different groups that we have been oppressing or hate or want terminated, you know, that kind of thing. What is your take on that, Joe?
I just find it amazing, John, that I saw a report that Donald Trump's candidacy is bringing out all the bigots and haters, homophobes, xenophobes, everything. They're coming out of the woodwork now because Donald Trump is giving them a voice. And to see someone pose legislation like this, well, those people proposing the legislation are the ones that are racist, bigoted. Those people are the ones because they feel that these people cannot help themselves. They needed to be protected somehow. And quite honestly, this is ridiculous. This is why they don't like Trump, because this political correctness BS is getting people killed. It got people killed in San Bernardino, what was it, a month ago now? And so, you know, we got to stop this idiocy. And so, yes, Trump has that narrative going. He is running it. These people are afraid of him. Otherwise, they wouldn't say such crazy things. How is Donald Trump bringing out anybody that like he's responsible for all the bigots and homophobes and everything else in the world? For crying out loud, are you kidding me? Yeah. You know, it's the same thing as saying Barack Obama brought all the racists and all the black people voted for him the last time. You know, well, statistically, yes, 92% of the black vote voted for Barack Obama. So whatever. But it's not Barack Obama's fault. He's not in charge of that. Nobody's in charge of it. No candidate's in charge of that. But the political correctness police in our country and in the media and in the government just can't see it any other way. And these people need to be stopped. That's what's killing people. Hence the narrative of Trump and why he is drawing people in Bernie Sanders' backyard is just unbelievable what he's been able to do. And, you got Hillary Clinton. I think they're busting people into hers, just like they will to get her elected. They will bust her people to the polls. The unions will make sure of that. Well, so we'll see what happens here. But that's I think it's pretty damn low. That's even and then the other thing that perked my ears, he said it was brought through the legislative process. We all know that's BS. Nothing gets done here without Barack Obama's executive orders.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to. The way this article is laid out is that this was a response to our new Attorney General Loretta Lynch making the comment back. I think it was right after the San Bernardino shooting that the Justice Department would prosecute anybody.
Well, yes, of course. They were going to bring about anything. Well, it brings to mind another thing, John.
Yeah.
We know over in Germany, New Year's Eve, a bunch of women got raped on New Year's Eve in the public square, John, by these refugees. And the news media was suppressed for like 18 hours because they did not want hate speech to be out about these refugees. Well, no, hate speech wasn't about the refugees. The hate speech was about the policies that the government established as refugee policy. So the hate speech wasn't about the refugees, it's about the government. And so this was allowed to go and take care of in Cologne, Germany. And now the police chief in Cologne is now resigning up because of this, because he didn't stand up to for the innocent people that were raped over there.
Well, another thing
that's what political correctness does.
Another thing that's interesting about this, that I think it's noteworthy, that this article, the way it states it says here, a group of Democratic lawmakers introduced this House resolution. Nobody in this group is named. So they're doing something again. They don't want, if a Republican group had done this, every name would be published there. We'd already have articles about everything that those people have done, everything that they've been accused of doing, every event that they ever campaigned at that had a racist in the crowd or something like that. We'd get a full exposition, a full expose on anybody involved in introducing a bill like this if it was contrary to what the narrative is. But here it's just a very simple, a group of Democratic lawmakers.
How innocent.
And we don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. It doesn't really matter who they are, but the point being is how this stuff is being conducted.
Again, maybe it's Alan Grayson, who's running for Senate here in Florida, who wants to go ahead and sue every ballot in the country, every precinct in the country where Ted Cruz's name is going to be on, because he doesn't think Ted Cruz should be allowed to run as president. Alan Grayson. Yeah, Alan Grayson, you putz. Go back in that hole you climbed out of and put the rock back over top of you, buddy. Yeah, he wants to run and be my state senator. Sorry, Alan, go. Be gone.
And another aspect of this, because Joe was bringing this up earlier, I want to mention it again, about this being the Republicans' election to lose. It goes on to say here that one might argue that the H.R. 569 is an outrageous and blatantly unconstitutional proposal sponsored by the worst of the socialist cabal in the Democrat Party. Because, just like if we were to say, well, we want to ban all Muslims from entering the United States, the argument is what? Well, constitutionally, you can't do that. But apparently, you can constitutionally decide who you're going to protect over another group. See, there's the double-sided sword. But here's the thing. A cautionary note, however, the unpredictability and capriciousness of sellouts among Republican lawmakers have facilitated all manner of malignant schemes enacted through Democrat legislation, meaning it would probably pass because the Republicans wouldn't want to be labeled Muslim haters.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether it's outrageous, whether it's blatant, whether it's unconstitutional is irrelevant. Why? Because of the narrative. The narrative is if you don't want Muslims in this country because you fear for your life or you fear for the security of the nation, you are a hater. You are a racist. You are a bigot. And we have no place for that because that's not who we are, if I can coin one of Obama's most favorite terms. we're not like that. We embrace everybody. We even embrace the people that want to cut our freaking heads off.
Yay!
Yeah, come on over. Hey, I got a brand new knife sharpener. I know you guys sharpen your machetes on rocks. Yeah. I got an electric knife sharpener, and then you can cut my head off. Make sure it's a clean cut.
Which brings us back to our questionnaire. Mr. Ahmed, have you ever supported any terrorist activities? Right. Will you ever support any terrorist activities in the future? Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for answering us truthfully on your refugee questionnaire.
I want to submit a questionnaire to the Congress. Many of these people in Congress, almost all of them probably. Have you ever read the Constitution? Do you know what the Constitution says? Do you understand what it represents? You know what? You want to take away First Amendment rights? Explain to me what First Amendment rights are.
I would just like to get with Barack Obama and say, Barack Obama, have you ever heard of this document called the Declaration of Independence? That's what decided how we were going to get away from King George III. That's what it was. It wasn't some distant freaking across the ocean, Barack, like he said last night.
Yeah, can you believe with that statement he made in that town hall about America? That America, the revolution began on a conspiracy.
Yeah,
and by the way, what was the conspiracy? The conspiracy was what? They wanted to disarm America. So we know that was the truth. That's exactly what they wanted to do. And we were housing British soldiers in American homes to keep track of what the Americans were doing, and they wanted them to turn in their guns. That was the final straw. People don't understand. It took 12 years for this revolution to come to pass. It didn't happen because of Lexington Concord.
And it wasn't no big conspiracy, John. They wrote it on a big piece of paper, and they signed it, and John Hancock signed it as large as anybody could read.
Yeah.
All right? So it wasn't like, hey, we're just trying to hide this. It was a damn declaration, damn it.
Yeah, and as I want to point out here, let's see, a lot of people don't know the history of this country in terms of, they think Lexington Concord was the beginning of the revolution. It began 12 years ago. Over what? Taxation. That's what they wanted to tax rum, or the molasses, because molasses made rum, and rum was a big commodity. And so the government, the British king decided, you guys have to pay for the war that we got you into. So now you're going to have to do that, and we're going to start taxing. They start taxing stamps. They start taxing all this stuff. And that one thing led to another. Then it got to where people started getting too rowdy. So what did they do? We want all your guns. We got to take your guns because we don't want an uprising. We don't want insurgents. That gun control was the issue that set everything. Set the what do you want to call it? The match to the torch. That was it. Everything else is leading up to it. Finally, you're going to take our guns? I don't think so.
But the constitutional law professor from Chicago doesn't understand any of that.
No. Or they do understand it and they're ignoring it. It's
a combination. They just want to rewrite their own history.
Yeah, they want to rewrite history the way it is. So America was started on a conspiracy, and the conspiracy that was that Britain wanted to take away our guns.
To fit the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. We're at the top of the hour here. We got to go to a break here. Time for the Edwards Notebook. We'll pay some bills. We'll be back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. In the annals of history, these are certainly times that not only try men's souls, but are rendering everything that is good to the back of the proverbial bus. I'll explain on today's page from the Edwards Notebook right after this important announcement.
I feel like we've always known each other.
Me too, and we just met online. So listen, why do we meet?
Maybe at the mall. Saturday afternoon? Do a little shopping, a little chilling, and let's wear all pink so we recognize each other.
McGruff the crime dog here. Kids don't always know that predators surf the internet looking for young victims. Be your kid's safety net on the internet. Visit McGruff.org.
An important announcement from the U.S. Department of Justice, the Crime Prevention Coalition of America, and the National Crime Prevention Council.
On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, it is bad enough that people do wrong. Human beings have been committing evil deeds ever since Eve was duped by Satan and convinced Adam, who knew better, to partake of an activity they should not have. Thus, the ongoing war between good and evil was on, and the rest is history. When Arabic Islamic Muslims first enslaved black Africans hundreds of years before the first European explorers began to purchase African slaves from the Muslims, there was an equal and opposite effort that eventually arose. The brutality of slavery was eventually seen by millions of British and United States citizens as an evil that had to be extinguished. When the Church and the King of England both became obsessed with power over the people, some British subjects said enough is enough and sought to find a land where they could worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in peace and tranquility. Out of their disdain for the wrongdoings in the land of the Union Jack was born the Christian-based belief in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There are many, including yours truly, who believes that the United States truly was meant to be the opposite of what has been an ongoing system of survival of the fittest between brutal governments or natural disasters. America stood out because she was different. Her many fundamental documents, ranging from the Articles of Confederation to the Bill of Rights, pinpointed a path of greatness both for the nation as a whole and for individuals who sought to engage in the bountiful opportunities that availed themselves. In more recent times, the late President Ronald Reagan represented a stunning and invigorating contrast to the malaise of his inept predecessor, President Jimmy Carter. He refused to appease our nation's adversaries and fought to roll back the economy's stifling regulations, high tax rates, and price controls, as well as regulations that had beaten our economy into submission. As the Republic prepares to choose its next commander-in-chief, we the people must take into consideration the importance of picking someone who represents being different. In other words, America can no longer thrive as a great nation with leadership that is hell-bent on dragging her down a path that not only inhibits economic prosperity, but also places her in mortal danger. Let us not forget, there are many who would like nothing more than to rid the world of the one nation that has been an impediment to global despots who believe that forcing people to live as they say to live or die is the way to go. Millions of Christians, black Africans, and others have been murdered by Muslim groups like Hezbollah and ISIS for the sport of it because of the spineless or worse approach of the current United States administration. One of the things that New Zealand author and orator Trevor Loughton has been doing is crisscrossing the United States for a number of years, reminding Americans of our nation's place of greatness and how much the world, including his nation of New Zealand, depends upon this beacon of light nation. We are at an absolute crossroads. The time has arrived for us to make the choice to either return to our God-given ordained position of greatness and beacon of hope in the world, or resume our current slide into second-tier status, leaving the world, including our allies, to try and to do their best to overcome the challenges posed by dedicated Muslims and traditional tyrannical enemies like China and Russia. The choice is ours, America. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, difference. Don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you have been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet. Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
Hey, we're back, and this is hour 2 of the Conservative Syndicate, and we're glad you took the time to join us. If you're joining us from the first hour, staying with us from the first hour, we do appreciate you sticking around. I am your host, John Matthews, Mad Prophet of the Airways, along with my co-host, Joe, You Can't Handle the Truth Hakos from Dry Report. So,
I appreciate them sticking around too.
Yes, I appreciate you sticking around. I'm sitting here wondering if I'm almost like wanting to text on your side of the nation there. Make sure that they got an oxygen tank out there, man. You're making up for some lost time.
Trying to pace myself.
Well, anyway, as we were talking about in the first hour, this whole idea, again, the whole concept here of controlling the narrative. And I know it's got to be at this point, as is everything on this show, at some point I know it sounds like we're beating a dead horse. But I really like the concept or the idea of exhausting topics, because what I find in doing that is that the information gets repeated and repeated, because as human beings, we have a tendency to only retain a very little of what we actually hear. I've tested this out. We've done this in my church. You give a sermon, and you have people come up to you after the sermon and go, "Boy, that was a great word, John. You really, really hit the nail on the head." And I'll say, "What did I talk about?" And crickets. Well, you talked about Jesus. They might retain, they might give you one or two things that they pulled out of it, but not the whole thing. And that's okay. That's the way it works. You're trying to give little pieces out there that people can grab hold of. And that's what we're trying to do in the show. We're covering a lot of things, and we're hoping that you're pulling out what your mind needs to hear. I trust that people hear what they need to hear. And anything they don't need to hear probably gets washed away. And that's okay. That's all right. Because we only speak the truth here. So whatever you do retain, you can be sure it's the truth. So there we go. I want to, in line with this, I want to talk about this I don't know what they call it, a town hall. It was a CNN hosted town hall forum with President Barack Obama last night on gun control. And one of the things that really, there were several things that Obama said that really stuck out to me that in so many ways.
Here's one, John. This really gets to me. And I think it is part of the narrative, though, that we were talking about. And it's this notion of a conspiracy out there, and it gets wrapped up in concerns about the federal government. Now, there's a long history of that. That's in our DNA. The United States was born suspicious of some distant authority. Barack Obama last night.
Okay, now, take that. See, there's one thing about liberals. If you let them talk long enough, they'll actually tell you what they really mean. That's one thing about them. You know, Barack Obama can be out there telling you how great America is. He can tell you, because of the way America's government is designed, a person like him, meaning quote-unquote black, could run and hold the highest office in the land. And in the next breath, tell you how racist we are and how the Constitution didn't address the issue of racism, completely ignoring the historical factor that the reason the Constitution almost didn't pass was over the issue of racism. And one side conceded, saying, you know what, it's better that we concede this one issue for the purpose of holding together the republic that we have just fought to get, and we'll deal with this down the road somewhere. But that's not how it's painted. It's painted that the white men, the slave owners, the plantation owners, and all these other people, they're the ones, they designed the Constitution for their end and for their purpose. Where in fact, historically, we know that not to be true. It's like, we were just sitting here having a debate. There was just a conversation going on here in the chat room. And our friend up in Canada was asking me the difference between Washington's ideology, Jefferson's ideology, or Adams' ideology. And there were three different ideologies when these people came together. There were three different thoughts out there when they were trying to establish a government. Washington wanted a nationalist type of government, a central government. Jefferson was the closest thing to a Republican. He said, no, he wanted federalism. He wanted state sovereignty over anything. And Adams was an imperialist. He wanted a king. And these three men debated, and others that supported them all debated for months as to what type of government they were going to come up with. Washington and Adams eventually conceded their position, understanding that for that time and purpose, the republic was better established under state sovereignty, because that is what would persevere, that's what would preserve what it was they fought for. They were fighting against a king. Why would you want to have another king? They were fighting against tyranny. Why would you want a bigger government? Now, you could hold the opinion and say, well, bigger government would be better, but look what big government's doing now. It's not protecting U.S. citizens anymore. It's using us to pander to other demographics that don't mind being under tyrannical rule.
The only thing government's doing now is protecting the government.
Yeah, it's protecting the government, and how do you do that? It's the same thing that happened. I'm a history buff, and I look at this stuff, and this is what I see. What was Gaius Julius Caesar's biggest downfall? I'll tell you what his biggest downfall was. He had conquered the world for all intents and purposes. He had stabilized the region. He had made Rome the only really ruling power. And so what did he do? He brought in democracy and replaced the republic with democracy. And what happened? He ended up getting killed over it.
Wolves ate the sheep.
Okay? Why? Because it doesn't work. Democracy is ruled by the mob. And people that understood that at that point in time said, no, we cannot allow this, because there would be no representation by people that had any other desire than self-abatement. People that just want the government to take care of them, and that's not the way it was supposed to be. So you cannot look at all this stuff. And so we take a look here at what's going on here with this idea of creating all these quote-unquote protected groups. protected groups for the purpose of hopefully integrating democracy in the place of a republic, and those small group of central planners control everything because the groups that are being controlled are dumb, stupid, and ignorant.
And in that vein, John.
I'm sorry?
In that vein, let's go back to the transcript from last night.
Okay, well, we got to go to a break here. This is our short segment. We got to run a break here, and then we'll go back to the transcript of last night. So let me, I got to cue something out. I'm getting so lost in the conversation, I'm forgetting what I'm supposed to do. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
We're back. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos. And we want to just remind everybody you can catch this show, the archive, or any of our archives at the conservativesyndicate.net. Just go to the website, the conservativesyndicate.net, pick up the archives there, or anything you want to know about our show, who we are, what we do. You can find it at the conservativesyndicate.net. I want to turn this back over to Joe because I did kind of interrupt him here. He was talking about Barack Obama's mention of conspiracy and in terms of the country being founded on a conspiratorial foundation. And I want to let you finish your thought on that, Joe. You there? What happened to Joe? Oh, are you there, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. You must have got up and left. I was turning the conversation back over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were making comments about the conspiratorial nature of our founding, and I kind of went off on a thread there, and I wanted to get it back over to you.
Yeah, well, the conspiratorial part of this, and this gets back to your point about Obama's legacy and all this other crap. Let's see if I can kind of weave this together here. And in the last night, they were talking about the gun confiscation, and there's a conspiracy out there about it. It said, and here, let me get back up to this one part. So Cooper goes, let me jump in. Isn't it fair to call it a conspiracy? I mean, there's a lot of people who really believe this deeply that they just don't trust you. And then Obama goes, I'm sorry, Cooper. Yes, it is fair to call it a conspiracy. What you are saying, a pause. Are you suggesting that the notion that we are creating a plot to take everybody's guns away so we can impose martial law? Cooper, not everybody. There's certainly a lot of people present. It is a conspiracy. Yes, this is a conspiracy. I would hope that you would agree that it is controversial, except on some websites around the country. There are certainly a lot of people who just have a fundamental distrust that you do not want to go further and further and further down that road. Obama, look, I mean, I'm only going to be here, check this out, I'm only going to be here for another year. I don't know. When will I have started this enterprise, right? Laughter, ha-ha, applause. Okay, so Obama, I'm only going to be there for another year. When should he have started this enterprise? I'm sorry, Barack. This enterprise started before you were ever born.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get that. You're just you're just the next piece of the puzzle, Barack. You're the next piece of the puzzle that wants to tear down the Second Amendment, has been fighting against the Second Amendment long before you were born, Barack. And that's where I get with Hillary Clinton going when she's asked, well, she's a progressive socialist. No, she's a Fabian socialist. And a Fabian socialist is, if you want to go, and our audience wants to go and look this up, probably some of them probably already know this stuff. Their symbol is a tortoise with a rock smashing the world, or a hammer smashing the world. And the reason why it's a tortoise because tortoises go on and on and on. They don't care how long it takes. Hence the legacy part, John. It doesn't matter how long this takes. Barack Obama's not the final piece of this. They don't care how long it takes. If it takes a year, fine. It doesn't take a year, fine. If it takes another 50 years, fine. Just like healthcare, controlling healthcare. They didn't care how long it took. They kept pushing it till they finally got it.
Well, that brings up another thing, and we've talked about this before in the show. Leftists do not really care if they get their way. It doesn't really matter if they get their way.
Get it tomorrow.
The other example I was thinking of as you were talking is immigration reform. Yeah. And we've been hearing this talk forever about immigration reform. Again, another issue that has been on the plate before Barack Obama was born. Immigration has always been an issue. It dates back to World War II, Nazis coming over here, the Korean conflict, the Japanese. I mean, you name it. We've had millions of people deported. Eisenhower did it. Deported, 6 million Mexicans that were coming across the border illegally. So immigration reform has always been an issue. It's not that the issue needs to be resolved. In fact, in a lot of cases, they don't want resolution on the issues because if you get resolution, you no longer can control the narrative with it. And so the idea here is not necessarily, as Joe's saying, not necessarily getting gun control or taking guns away or even getting Americans to surrender their guns. The objective is to control the narrative to make the other side look like something they're not.
To condition the American people to accept the ultimate thing that they want.
Yeah.
They know right now the American people aren't ready to do it, but they just want to start conditioning them.
Yeah, and you
pounding you. Do this, do that. As I heard an example today about tobacco. They haven't made tobacco legal, but you can't do tobacco everywhere you want. Okay, fine. They're conditioning you. Making sure you get, that's the way we feel about it. Yeah. That you almost automatically react in the way they want you to because it's a conditioned response to them.
Right. I know when you can walk into a bar now out here. I don't know if it's just across the board across the country. I know it's out here in California. It's really funny. We have like two of these little mom and pop bars down the street from us in the little mini shopping center next to the liquor store. That kind of thing. And it's funny when you drive down that part. I don't go into bars and I don't go into liquor stores, but there is the gas stations right next to it where I sometimes get gas. So you pull in to get gas and you see a crowd of people standing outside the bar. And what are they doing? They're smoking. They're smoking cigarettes because they can't smoke in the bar. Now, why is that? Because secondhand smoke kills. And I'm thinking, what difference does secondhand smoke matter when you're in the bar drinking yourself to death? And it is about the conditioning. I myself, who used to smoke, I quit about 25, 26 years ago. But even today, even though I don't care if people smoke, if I happen to walk by somebody, or if we were at the Rose Bowl parade last week, and I'm standing next to some guy with one of those vapor machines, the synthetic cigarettes or whatever they are, which, by the way, produce enough, whatever it is, vapor, smoke or whatever it is, it's like a chimney. I mean, that produces a lot more than, a regular cigarette does. But I found myself annoyed, not irritated, just annoyed that this guy is blowing this stuff into the air next to me. And I'm thinking, I really don't care what the guy does to his body. And I got to thinking about it. It's like, why am I annoyed about this? Well, because we've been conditioned to be annoyed about smokers. Smokers are somebody that we're supposed to look down on now because they're doing something to harm their bodies. They're making a choice to harm their bodies in spite of all the rules and regulations and taxes and everything else that's supposed to discourage this. That's controlling the narrative. It's like you don't even have to agree with it. And that's why the left doesn't care if there's gun reform or immigration reform or tax reform or anything else. All they care about is being able to use the narrative to isolate and target whatever group opposes them. I guess that's the best way I can put this in the big picture. That's what it's all about. It's not about winning or losing the legislative battle or the tax battle or anything else. It's about winning the narrative, which conditions people to accept things that they normally wouldn't give a rat's ass about.
Yeah. And even though when they do win something, it's like they never won.
Yeah.
They keep on going.
It just magnifies another problem.
And the only way of life is their way of life.
Yeah. So we give the blacks the right to vote. We pass a constitutional amendment that says you cannot be discriminated at the polls because of your race, color, creed, or anything else. Okay, that isn't good enough because now we got poor black people. So we got to deal with the socioeconomic side of this thing. So let's start creating all these agencies and entitlements, and we'll let taxpayers pay their way. That's not enough. We've got to elevate them based on their color rather than their merit because that's how we're going to get equality. So we do that, and that's still not enough. Now we got to worry about the homosexuals, and that's still not enough. Now we're worrying about the Muslims.
Yeah.
And it's all for the purpose of keeping everything divided and pitting people against each other for the purpose of control. Because once your emotions take over your reasoning, You can be guided down any path you want, and that's what true believers do. They follow wherever they're led. Wherever the Pied Piper is playing the music is where they head.
You know what it is, John? It's madness. It's just madness.
Yep. Yeah, and it's sickening, and it irritates me that people, and I think in a lot of cases, know that they're being manipulated and just don't give a damn enough to do anything about it. Those are the people that I go after. Those are the people that, no, I have no compassion for you. I have no sympathy for you. You're an idiot. You're a tin hat. You're an ass hat. And if that's what you call it, falling, in my opinion, which is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, then you're irrelevant in the conversation. Other than the fact that you allow yourself to be led down a path, you're taking us with you. There are too many people going down the wrong path, and they're taking the rest of us with us. There's your anger. There's the source of your frustration.
Just one more moment of madness.
Yeah. We're up for moments of madness right now, if we haven't already had them today. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
Hey, on Moments of Madness. An article posted at Bloomberg by Jonathan Bernstein entitled "The Trump Effect Begins to Hit Congress" illustrates very well that what is at stake in the upcoming 2016 general election is not about the GOP's concern about who they will oppose in the Oval Office, but whether or not they have a majority that allows them to protect their individual posts. Bernstein very accurately points out that whether or not Trump magically transforms into the hybrid conservative moderate formerly known as a rhino, the GOP still stands to lose in those demographics they are working so hard to win over through their continual compromise with Obama's agenda to fundamentally transform the United States of America due to Trump's unwillingness to tone his rhetoric and instead fall in line behind the bonarized yes men that rule today's establishment. But that's not all. While the GOP tries their best to convey, all they need to return America to the GOP platform they themselves have dismantled plank by plank is control of the executive branch. It is quite obvious, even if a real conservative like Ted Cruz, himself a member of their most sought-after demographic, should be the last candidate standing, they fear losing the stability that defines the establishment they have worked decades to create in the House and Senate. Here's the madness. The bottom line is, it is not the future of America that is at stake. It's their jobs. The likes of Donald Trump or Ted Cruz in the White House threaten those jobs. Winning to today's GOP elite is more about the individual security that comes from holding a position that equates intelligence and skill with esteem and pay while exhibiting no qualifications for the job whatsoever. We know this because the current list of establishment elites seeking the White House remain at the bottom of the pond with popularity numbers between 0 and 3%. Yet they are still the ones the media flock to and the left exhorts when upper-tier candidates like Trump or Cruz comment on the weather in hope of rising from the bottom to the top of the cesspool they thrive in. When the best you can do is whine about today's political landscape while at the same time lamenting that which once was, who cares what John Kasich thinks about legislative reform? When the best you can refer to is a past that fades like a Clinton scandal, who cares if Jeb Bush tells you he can fix what he and his family helped break? When you do not even have a number that registers on the scale, who cares what Lindsey Graham believes is good foreign policy? In fact, who cares what Graham thinks about anything except maybe his choice of wine? It remains to be seen whether or not the GOP knocks over the chessboard by forcing a brokered convention next year in hope of getting their choice on the ballot, because they know they are about to lose to the new kid in the class. But one thing is certain. Regardless of how the rules are changed, everyone knows who the brats are, and everyone knows class is about to be dismissed. Maybe, just maybe then, these elites can take the position they are most qualified for, janitor sweeping the floors of the halls of Congress. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. We are back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos. We're talking about the narrative that has been controlled by the left very well over the last 7+ years, and how it's being wrestled away from them right now with the likes of Donald Trump out there, and the rhetoric that is coming out of the leftist side of the media machine in an attempt to grab back or take back that narrative and be able to control it once again. And we're talking about the gun control town hall meeting that CNN hosted yesterday. I want to take a clip or talk about a little exchange that took place here that really, out of everything that I heard here, really has more to do with controlling the narrative than anything else. I use the phrase often when I'm talking about Barack Obama's snake oil campaigns of using human shields. Yeah. And we see the visual effect, like when he gives some announcement or some press conference or something, and he's always got a certain demographic lined up in mass behind him. If he's talking to the military, you got camos, everybody in khakis behind him. If he's talking about Obamacare, they take all the janitors and put doctor robes on them, and they put them in the background and make them look like they're all doctors and nurses and stuff. All these people that are supposedly supporting whatever it is he's trying to sell to America. And one of the things that just gets me more than most of the other things that go on, is the use of children to try to push a narrative. And one of the things Obama began the conversation with yesterday was several comments dealing with gun control in terms of how it affects children. He talked about the idea that people it's easier for a 12 or 13-year-old to buy a gun than it is to buy a book. That kind of thing. And then there was this one exchange I want to share, and then I want to get Joe's take on this. Anderson Cooper is talking about, he's saying, first of all, he says here, he makes a statement. Part of the reason I think this ends up being a difficult issue, meaning gun control, is because people occupy different realities. There are a whole bunch of law-abiding citizens who have grown up hunting with their dad or going to the shooting range and are responsible gun owners. And then there's the reality that there are neighborhoods around the country where it's easier for a 12 or 13-year-old to purchase a gun and cheaper than it is for them to get a book. Cooper interrupts him. He says, but what you're proposing, what you proposed this week, the executive actions, the other things, are they really going to be effective? And I ask this because the vast majority of felons out there, I mean, we can all agree criminals should not get guns. We want to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. The vast majority of criminals get their guns from either illegally or from family or friends. So background checks is not something that's going to affect them, is it?
Now, that's a very reasonable question, very factually based. The president responds, well, that's not exactly accurate. Of course it's not accurate because it doesn't fit his narrative. Look, first of all, it's important for everybody to understand that what I proposed and what I haven't proposed. What I've said consistently throughout my presidency is I respect the Second Amendment. I respect.
No, he doesn't.
Okay, now let me get it all out here, Joe, and I'll give you the mic. I respect the right to bear arms. I respect people who want gun for self-protection, for hunting, for sportsmanship. But all of us can agree that it makes sense to do everything we can to keep guns out of the hand of people who want to try to do harm to others. It doesn't answer the question. Now he goes on to say this. This is what I wanted to get at. Because every year we're losing 30,000 people to gun violence. 2/3 of those are actually suicides. There's your human shield, suicides. Hundreds of kids under the age of 18 are being shot or shooting themselves. There's your human shield, under the age of 18, often by accident, many of them under the age of 5. There's your human shields. This is the stuff that just gets me. I'm thinking if I was sitting across from this man, I would bitch slap him in a second. And I wouldn't care about the consequences of it, because what he's doing is he's playing to he's tugging on the emotional heartstrings in order to push the narrative. That is the stuff that just irks me beyond all get out. Your comment, Joe.
Yeah, well, having it be easier to get a gun than a book in Chicago. Gee, that's not a statement about guns. That's a statement about the society that's been created by leftist policies that he's allowed to just blossom under his terms, and his friends like Rahm Emanuel up there in Chicago who can go vacation over in Cuba, in the winter months. But that's a statement on that, not about the guns itself. Are you kidding me? It ain't about the guns itself. Nothing he's proposed would stop any of this. This is all smoke and mirrors. It's crap. If he really wanted to stop, he goes, if we could just stop, just save one life. Well, how about this, Barack? How about you enforce your immigration policy, your immigration laws? How about you put the stop to sanctuary cities? I think Kate Steinle's family would be finally surprised and that you're trying to do something to protect her after she's gone. That's just one life. Of course, it's not the life you would have chosen, Barack. Because we don't know what the lives you choose, Barack. We already know who he is.
Yeah, he goes on to say in this conversation, because he's trying to justify Chicago, because he was hit on that. People are saying, your hometown, one of the highest.
He's been there for almost 7 years, John. He's now finally going to work on Chicago.
Yeah, yeah. You would think by now he would at least say, well, D.C.'s my hometown. But the point being is he goes on to finish out this thing about the number of gun deaths, 30,000. He says, well, if we can take that number from 30,000 down to 28,000, let's say, that's 2,000 families who don't have to go through what the families at Newton or San Bernardino or Charleston went through. The human shields again. Now, listen what he says this. He says, we propose that if you have a background check system that has a bunch of big loopholes, which they don't, which is why a lot of criminals and people shouldn't have guns who are able to get. Well, Cooper comes back and says, but they're not, criminals aren't buying the guns at the gun shows.
Thank you.
Okay? And Obama, but it does happen.
It does not happen.
1% of the criminals are found to be people that buy guns at gun shows. Well, that 1% is enough to inflict his policies on everybody else. Now he says here, well, the problem is that 30 to 40% of the guns coming into Chicago are coming from Indiana. Okay, like that is the reason. Once again, it's the gun that's the problem.
Between Illinois and Indiana.
Yeah, it's not the people, it's the gun. It's not the people going to Indiana or bringing guns across the border from Indiana into Chicago. It's not the culture of Chicago. It's the fact that they don't have tighter gun laws in Indiana. So if we had tighter gun laws, I guess all those criminals, all those gangsters, all that urban problems that they have in Chicago wouldn't be there. But it's Indiana's fault. It's everybody's fault, but the people running the show. It's not Rahm Emanuel's fault. It's Indiana's fault.
And then they want to go ahead and say, well, if you want to sell your gun to your child, you have to get a federal firearms license. So you got to get an FFL. Okay, that's great. I got to get an FFL. For what reason? Are you really? So you can have a record of it. It's not about confiscation. Tell me it's not about confiscation if all you want is a record of it.
Right, exactly. And that record becomes data, and that data can be fed. That data can be fed into a machine, and that machine can classify people as somebody that needs to be watched. So we put them on a watch list or a no-fly list, and
or
then
your
that's
kid
how we
goes to
come
get
in.
his shots at school, and the nurse asks, "Hey, do you have guns in your home?" "Yeah, my dad has guns. We go hunting all the time." Bingo, put on the list.
Yeah, or you go to your VA for a checkup, and they ask you, "Do you suffer from post-traumatic syndrome? Do you have nightmares about your time in the service? Being out in a combat zone?" If you're dumb enough to say yes, you just put yourself on a watch list.
Well, here you go right here. Asked me the other day, "Do you feel like you need to see anybody in mental health?" "No, I'm not feeling homicidal today, so no, I'm good to go."
I know, that's funny. Every time I go,
no shit question. Okay, no kidding. Ask question. Do you feel you need to see anybody for mental health?
Yeah.
as part of checking your pulse, getting your blood pressure, and checking your oxygen levels.
Right. Well, I got it when I went in last month, and they said, "Well, your blood pressure is high. It's too high." And I'm like, "Okay, are you under stress? Are you having any problems with your past?" "No, other than the fact I'm not rich, I'm okay." I caught on to that real fast. That's what they're doing. They're digging for information that they can put in a record somewhere. I go down and try to buy a Glock. And they go, "Well, wait a minute, you got something here in your record that you've said you had nightmares
blood
about."
Pressure.
Yeah, so no, we can't give you a gun. You might go out and shoot somebody. That kind of thing. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. And
we're back. And you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. And I want to remind everybody once again, take the time to visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. Everything you want to know about our show is there. Theconservativesyndicate.net. Archives, bios on our panel, blogs that we write, whatever's there. Theconservativesyndicate.net. We're coming up on the end of the show here. We got about 6 minutes left here to devote to our topic. And the topic really all week has been about the narrative, taking control of the narrative. And I've tried the best I could think of to bring everything into a big picture and let you see how these different elements out there, these different issues, the planks of the narrative whether it be immigration reform, tax reform, gun control, whatever it is out there, taxes, socioeconomic conditions, the black community, racism, whatever it is out there, these are all elements that are used to control the narrative. It's not important to the leftists, for the most part, to win on any of these particular issues. What's important is that the narrative stay alive and well, and you be able to be recycled whenever it needs to be. If one issue becomes too hot, we interject something else, just so that nobody really ever comes to a decision or conclusion, but we just keep the fervor and the anger and the emotion all stirred up, because that's how true believers follow. That's what they follow. That's how they function. And we on the right are beginning, and to some degree, to fall into that trap of allowing our emotions to guide our reason. And we're beginning to sound a lot, in some instances, like people on the left, where we just rant and rave without any logical reasoning behind it, or, better yet, practical solutions to the problem. The practical solution to the problem has been, and always will be, get government out of our lives. That is the practical solution to everything. Not increase it, not expand it, not dump more money into it. Eliminate it, reduce it, put it away, and let us return our lives back to us as individuals. Now, I want to on this last segment here, I want to talk about an exchange that took place between Taya, what's her name? Taya Kyle, the wife of Chris Kyle, the movie, you'll remember, The American Sniper, who was shot and killed at a gun range by somebody he was trying to help, another fellow veteran that was going through some issues, and he was trying to mentor the guy, was teaching him. They would go down a sharpshooting range, and the guy turned the gun on Kyle and shot him. And so that feeds into the narrative that you can't allow people to have guns that shouldn't have it. Now, she asked President Barack a question, but I don't want to talk about the question. I want to talk about how she addressed his handling of the narrative. That really got me. I thought it was really great. She says, I'm wondering why it wouldn't be a better use of our time to give people hope in a different way, to say, that first of all, actually, let me back up to that. Because with the laws, I know that at least the last I heard, the federal prosecution of gun crimes was like at 40%. And what I mean by that is that there are people lying on these forms already, and we're not prosecuting them. Does that remind you of anything? Like perhaps, are you a terrorist? Okay, it's the same type of thing. We ask them, are you violent? Do you have a mental problem? As if somebody's going to say that. Okay, so there's an issue there. But instead, if we can give people hope and say that also during this time, while you've been president, we are the lowest murder rate in our country. All-time low of murders. We're at an all-time high of gun ownership, on the other hand, right? I'm not necessarily saying that the two are correlated, but what I'm saying is that we're at an all-time low for a murder rate, and we're at an all-time high for gun ownership, and that's a big deal. And what she's asking him basically is, why aren't you talking about that? Why aren't you mentioning that? And Barack Obama's question, well, thank your husband for his service. Thank you for your service, okay? What you said about the murder rates and violent crime generally is something we don't celebrate enough. So he agrees with her. But here it is. I think the most important point I want to make is that you will be able to purchase a firearm. Some criminals will get their hands on firearms even if there's a background check. Somebody may lie on a form. Somebody will. He's actually agreeing with her. But he's just saying, because I'm saying it means something different. Liberal doublespeak. Saying the same. He's saying the same thing. We should do what we can to keep the guns out of the hands of criminals. There's no answer there, so there's no response. There's no affirmation outside of just condensation and patronizing her. Your comment, Joe?
Absolutely. He looked at her with contempt, actually, because he knew he did not agree with her, no matter what she was going to say. Even though she's factually correct, again, facts don't mean anything to a liberal.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, that's it. All I can say is, let's just pray for our nation. We'll get through this, and we'll soldier on through next week.
Yeah, he tries to go on to say, well, the point he keeps trying to make is we're not going to stop everything. We're not going to be able to reduce all crime. But he uses these analogies like traffic accidents. We can't eliminate all traffic accidents, but over the course of 20 years, traffic accidents get lower. There's still tragedies, but there's still drunk drivers. There's still people who don't wear their seatbelts. But over time, violence has been reduced, and families are spared. We're back to the human shield. Let's tug the emotional heartstring. Okay, what we're saying is, we can't. Dad. He said at the very beginning. One of the things he said at the very beginning was at the very beginning of this narrative, at the beginning of the week, I believe it was, something along the line. If we can only save one life, it's worth it. No, I'm sorry, it's not worth it. It's not worth taking away people's gun ownership rights through the back door so that you can feel good about saving one life. If that's your concern, Mr. President, why don't you defund Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, you could save 1,000 lives in a second right there.
You could save 1 million lives a year if you did that. So it has nothing to do with saving lives. Abortion is just as violent, if not more violent, than putting a gun to somebody's head. If you're so worried about violence, if you're so worried about death, and you're so worried about families being affected by trauma, why don't you do away with abortion? There's a good place to start if you want to save lives.
Amen.
Anyway, we're at the end of our day. We're at the end of our week here. I'm glad to have you back, Joe. So glad you're back. And I hope you still rest over the weekend, so come Monday you're not going back into rehab, you know?
That's what I'm going to try to do.
Okay. All right, guys, we're done for the week. I hope you got something out of this. I mean, we exhausted the topic, I think, as much as we can at this point in time. We'll be back on Monday, 3 o'clock out here in the West Coast, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. Visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. And as always, we want to close our Friday show out with what has become my favorite prayer. We'll talk to you next week. God bless you all. We love you.
Guide me to who you want me to help. Raise up more that will call upon your name. Raise up those that love you and seek you and trust you. Raise them up, Lord. Raise them up. Lord, we need a generation of believers who are not ashamed of the gospel. We need an army of believers, Lord, that hate to be lukewarm and will stand on your word above all else. Raise them up, Lord. Raise them up. I pray for unity among those that love you. I pray that you open their eyes so that they can see your truth, Lord. I pray for your hand of protection and guidance. Raise up a generation, Lord, that will take light into this world, that will not compromise when under pressure, that will not cower, Lord, when others fall away. Raise them up, Lord, that they will proclaim that there is salvation in the name of Jesus Christ. Raise up warriors, Lord, who will fight on their knees, who will worship you with their whole hearts, Lord. Lord, call us to battle, that we may proclaim you King of kings and Lord of lords. I pray these things with all my heart. Raise them up, Lord, raise them up.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.